Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Camel Chat. This is Shane Hodge, and I'm also known as Hodgie, but I'm the CEO of TheCamel.co. And, you know, today I'm so excited. I got a guy that we're going to have a chat with today, and I met him. His name's AJ Pfeil. Now, the AJ, well, I'm going to say this once, right, stands for Aaron Joseph. And the last time he said that was when he married the beautiful Mandy Pfeil. And he said, I, Aaron Joseph, take thee, Mandy, which is Amanda. Anyway, so we're never going to refer to him as Aaron Joseph for the rest of the time because he's AJ ever since kindergarten. Now, why are we going to interview AJ today? One, he's got a pretty amazing story, which he'll share with you. But two, what I love about this guy is we met on the Duda community probably around about 2.5 years ago, and we just clicked because he's a Southerner. And, you know, the good thing about Southerners, there's no BS about them. And I think Australians and Southerners get on very, very well. But two, he's building a business and he's doing it part-time. And why I like that is that there is a lot of guys and gals out in that land that are trying to do it with Amway, they're trying to do it with crypto things and all this sort of stuff, selling apps. But what AJ has done, he's built his business, which is Create My Site, and we'll give that a bit of a plug later. And he's built up a nice little nest that's starting to grow. And I want to have a chat with him about his life, about his building the business. He's, again, born in Texas, grew up in Nashville, and now he's in good old downtown Louisiana, where he enjoys his family playing baseball and all that sort of stuff, and they all get injured and everyone spends a fortune on hospital bills. But he also is a crawfish freak, like they all are down there, and it's great. So without further ado, let's bring AJ into it and say, good morning, brother.
Good morning. How are we doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing well. You're a handsome fella, you know that.
You know, I got a haircut just for this. I didn't pay. I do it myself. So,
is that natural? I mean, can you actually grow your hair?
You know, I do. It grows a little bit, but in my entire family, on the male side, we all lose our hair very early. And I was very fortunate for it to last all the way until I joined the military. And then that first initial shave at basic training, it was done after that. It's never come back.
Yeah, I got the McDonald's, right? The big M.
Yeah.
And so
mine's
I
like
remember,
right here.
Same thing.
The artist.
So. And I tried for years and years and years. And one day it was stinking hot. I was actually in Manila. And I went, stuff this. And I just said to the guy, do a 1. And I looked and I thought, oh, that looks all right. Look like a bit of a, you know, a mafioso. And then I decided I'd get the 0. So, AJ, we're going to get into it now. And what my first question, as I said, it's just a chat. And my first question that I like to bring up is what I call pimples, puberty, and professional. All right. And basically, it's a 5-minute story of AJ from school and where you went and what you did and where you ended up and any other secrets. And just 5 minutes about your life from pimples, puberty to professional. So if you want to fire up with that, that'd be great.
That's pretty simple. You know, like you mentioned, I was born in Dallas, Texas, raised there for probably about 7 or 8 years, maybe a little longer. It's really hard to recall. Then my dad moved us all to Memphis, Tennessee, and grew up actually with my roots in Memphis. So that's where I went to high school. That's where I ended up getting married the first time and having my 2 oldest kids, you know, and then we joined the military. But before we joined the military, we got separated, and I ended up meeting the love of my life, the person that I was supposed to be with from the get-go, Mandy. And we joined the military, and I joined it to see the world and travel all over the place, and they sent me back to Texas. So I got stationed at Fort Hood for 6 years for my military career, and Mandy and I have our 2 youngest kids together. And whenever I got out of the military, I asked her, I said, you packed up everything and left to come to Texas with me. So where do you want to go now? And she said, well, I want to move down to Louisiana by my mom and dad. And we moved down here, and that's where we've been ever since. And we haven't looked back. We've got all 4 kids with us down here. They're all grown up. They're all crazy. Like you said, they all get injured. We got football players and ROTC members and baseball players, and they're all driving, and it's driving me crazy.
Hey,
and here we are.
Grown up. So how long did you spend in the military?
So I was in the military for almost 6 years. It was right under 6 years, from February 2010 to December 2015. So I was 5 years and 10 months.
Okay. Did you serve overseas?
I did. I did a tour in Afghanistan for 13 months, and then another tour in the Middle East for another 11 months.
Apart from being really hot, right? Because it's really hot there. What did you think?
Yeah. So it's hot, like you said, but it's, and I'm going to get crap for saying it, but it's a dry heat, right? Yeah. So you step off in 120 in the desert and it feels hot, but if it was 100% humidity, you'd be dying. But it's not, So there were parts of the place that I liked. I enjoyed the Emiratis very much. I enjoyed Dubai a lot. And that was, like, I tell everybody that I meet, if you ever get a chance to go to Dubai, check it out at least once, So all in all, the deployment aspect of it was bad, especially when we were in Afghanistan. But the second deployment, we had a green zone that we were stationed in, and we ran our missions outside the country. So it wasn't really bad. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you I enjoyed it, because I didn't.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Dubai, but
yeah.
Other than that.
Actually, Dubai, what I found about Dubai, that was smart, okay? Because they realized sooner or later oil's going to run out, okay? Might be another 100 years, 50 years, whatever. And they've made squillions and squillions of dollars. So somebody in Dubai going back 15, 20 years ago thought, hang on a minute, what are we going to do when all this oil runs out? And they decided that let's turn this into a great tourist attraction, a great shopping attraction. Let's run every major sporting event, MotoGP, Formula One, now golf, and let's make as much money out of that as we can out of oil. All right. So I agree with you. A tremendous place. It's a bit sad if you want to have a drink, but it's good, right? And that was smart. They just, no one else apart from the UAE have turned around and said, we're going to be tourist places. If not, they're going to go back to the way it was. The grass will grow over and they'll be Bedouins, right? So you've got to give them 10 points. First of all, also I forgot, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Second, were you actually in the infantry, or you did something else?
So no, I wasn't in the infantry. My original contract said military police, but I ran into some issues stateside before we left, and I missed my ship date. So when I went back, they said that you can either be a cook or you can be a fueler. And if you're a fueler, we'll give you a bonus. So I said, sign me up for that. So I was actually a petroleum aviation refueler. So we built all the forward operating FARPs where the helicopters and everything would land in the battle and refuel and rearm and all that kind of stuff. But when we got sent to Afghanistan, my entire brigade got sent up to RC North, and I got sent to RC South with 6 people. And we got attached with 101st. And we did some fueling there, but we didn't really do our MOS. So
okay. So you got out of it.
Yep.
Do you miss it?
There's some aspects of it that I do miss. I'm really big on camaraderie.
Yeah.
And, all that kind of stuff. So, like, I've got friends that I keep in touch with, and we're going to continue to keep in touch with for the rest of our lives, just because that's the kind of bonds you build with those people. But being gone away from my family, I don't miss.
No, I got you. I remember when I did international business, I spent 25 years living out of a suitcase and staying in hotels, flying on airplanes. For the first year, it was a buzz, because the more you fly, the more you get upgraded, the more hotels you stay at, that you go from a basic room up to a suite, same price. It was so much fun. Then after about a year, I lost my family. I had no friends. You get back to Australia, you got nothing to talk about. You know, it was terrible. But I got locked into that life. And, you know, I gave that up 10 years ago, and I wouldn't go back to it. So let's now get to the next question. You got out of the military, you come back, you're in Louisiana when you come back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and you got to get a job, right?
Yeah, that was a big one.
That was pretty important because you got to feed the family, all right? What did you first get into when you got back?
So it's funny, right? Because I'm not one of those people who's going to sit around and wait for things to come to them. So I realized that I was about 35 days away from my last check for the military.
Wow.
And I was like, got to do something. So I started applying everywhere that I could put in an application at. I didn't care what it was. Gas stations, Walmarts. I really wanted to get into the refineries, into offshore and petroleum, because that's my background.
Mm-hmm.
I have a logistics certification through the military, and that's really kind of what I wanted to do. So my father-in-law made a couple of phone calls and pulled a couple of strings for me to put me in front of a big company called Halliburton. Mm-hmm. They do a lot of offshore drilling and a lot of deep well stuff.
Yep.
And they got my resume and they said, hey, you're a perfect candidate. You know, we want you to come down here and interview with us. And the day before I was supposed to go, the CEO put a hiring freeze on the company.
Boom.
So now I'm 10 days away from my last check, and I got to make something happen. So I actually went to the Walmart distribution center right here by us, and I got a job there, you know, because that's what you've got to do to take care of your family. And I was on day 2 of orientation at the Walmart distribution center when another company called me, and they had gotten my resume from me before, and they called me and they said, hey, we want you to come interview with us. We think we might have a job in a chemical plant for you. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I've already accepted a position at the distribution center, you know, and they're taking pretty good care of me. So I'll come down there and interview. And well, long story short, they offered me a lot more money, and it was in the field that I wanted to be in whenever we got down here, and I took it. So that's what got me started into the field that I'm in now.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
That all happened right at the end of 2015, because when I got out of the military, I had terminal ETS time, right? Which is you get leave for so long, and then your pay stops after that. So during that time, you're allowed to pack up, move, look for a job, all that kind of stuff while you're still getting paid. So I actually got to Louisiana in August of 2015, I believe.
Yep.
And come November was when I knew that I was needed to, you know, put boots to the ground and start making things happen. Awesome. So end of November, beginning of December is when I started doing all that.
Okay.
Of 2015.
So 2015, and you know, now we're at 2022. So somewhere along the line, there was this click in AJ's brain, or maybe it was an elbow from Mandy that says, hey, we want more out of life. What made you all of a sudden say, well, let's get into the digital marketing, website building, and start with Create?
So I've always had a passion for technology. I've always been big into computers and phones, and you know, like most people, if I can take it apart, I'm going to take it apart. Well, a lot of people take it apart and don't know how to put it back together. I'm one of those guys who can actually take it apart and put it back together. Coming out of the military, when we were still at Fort Hood, we had options in front of us, right? What I wanted to do, and I could use my GI Bill, and I can go back to school, and I can get paid, and all this. So I looked into a couple of different things that would benefit me down here in Louisiana. Mechanical engineering was the first one. And as soon as they mentioned linear algebra, not for me, not having it. So then I started looking into computer science, right? Because learning programming and stuff like that was a passion of mine that I've always wanted to do, but I've just never done it because I had to take care of kids and pay bills and all that kind of stuff. You kind of got to put your passions on hold when you have kids so that they can grow up and have their own passions.
Yep.
But computer science is what I wanted to get into, but I ended up just not really wanting to go back to school. You know, when I got out of the military, I was 29, 30 years old. I just didn't want to do it. So
it's a bit hard.
It's like starting all over. And like, I would be a 30-year-old freshman at a community college or something.
Forget about it.
I didn't want it.
Yeah.
I wanted to work. I wanted to provide for my family. I want to do that. So I'm doing that, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what? I still want to learn it. So what do? I go on Khan Academy, and Khan Academy teaches me, I start learning, what was it? It was called Java Process.
Wow.
And it was the most fascinating thing that I've ever done in my life, because it started with the first lesson where I designed a little ball. And then after that, I made that ball move up and down.
Wow.
And then after that, that ball would bounce off the walls, and then it would change velocity based off of angle and all sorts of crap. And the next thing you know is I'm doing all this fun stuff, and I'm recreating video games on the computer. And I've recreated Flappy Bird on the computer and Mario Brothers. And I'm learning about cycling through times and cycling through different images, which are created with pixels. And there's a whole bunch of crap that I'm just taking in, and I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah.
Well, we're driving down our little Podunk Highway here where we live in Louisiana, in Ponchatoula, and there's a bunch of mom and pop antique shops, mom and pop t-shirt designers, small little family dentistries, family pharmacies. You don't see those in big cities.
No.
You don't see family pharmacies in big cities.
No.
And I'm sitting here and we're driving down and we're like, you know what? These people are not going to make it, because 3 miles up the road, big companies are moving in.
Yep.
And they're going to take over everything. So we wanted to figure out how we can help the small people that didn't have $1 million a year budget get the same results that $1 million a year budget could get them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we coined our tagline, which is building sites for everyday people.
Yep.
So Create My Site was built off of us just wanting to help small people who don't understand what they need to have in order to succeed. Because you would drive down the road, you would drive down this street in the middle of the week, and everybody would be closed just because there's no business. You know, so how can we revive those types of businesses? And that's kind of where we kicked off and where we started from. And we've been doing it ever since, you know. And it's funny that you called it a business, because it's really not. I know it's a business and it's an LLC and we're legit, but for us, for me, it's a passion. Doing what I do is a passion.
Yeah.
And helping people, it has to be a passion, you know, otherwise you're in it for your bottom line, and that's just not who we are. Mandy, like all of the money that we make, we're not living off of it right now. We're saving it, you know. We pay for our business expenses out of it, and that's it. It's not like I'm sitting here writing myself a check every month based off of what I do for Create My Site, because we're not.
Did you, because all that PHP stuff was coding, right?
Yep.
Where'd the design part come? Because for a website, you've got to have some design skill. I mean, you use Doodle, which is a lot of drag and drop, and
there is a lot of drag and drop, and I love it. But I actually went when I was in high school. The high school that I went to was a creative and performing arts high school, and I was in their advanced art program. So drawing, painting, sketching, everything under the sun except for sculpturing. I could never sculpture for the life of me, but like drawing and it's a hobby that my grandfather had, and it's something that I would watch him do, and then I would sit there and I'd take a piece of paper and I'd start drawing, and I just fell in love with it, and I joined the creative arts high school. And had my life taken a different turn, I probably would have continued on to college as an art major or something like that. But certain events unfolded in my life that actually had me drop out of high school. In my senior year, my dad had a heart attack.
Yeah.
And I had to go to work. So when we left Memphis to go back to Texas so that he could be closer to his company's doctors, they told me that the level of education that I was on from Memphis was equivalent to about 10th grade in Texas. And I was like, well, I'm not going back to the 10th grade. No. So I just got my GED and I started working, and I've been working ever since.
Wow. You know, I had this vision when you talked about sculptor, and I was thinking about the movie Ghost. And you had that Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore, and he's making the "Oh My Love" in the background, and he's got the clay. I was sort of picturing you with the clay, right?
Don't.
Right, but I mean, it was just a vision. But I'm glad
you're trying to get people to watch this, Shane, and that's never going to happen if you put that image in their head.
I thought it was funny. Right, but I can't. You know, you're just one of those guys. I know you, and I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I can't imagine him as a sculptor, right? But you're not. But there's that other artistic, because to build a website, even if you drag and drop it, you've got to have some artistic part of you that says, well, that looks good, or that looks bad. Right? Although some of the stuff we see every day, I sometimes think they have no artistic idea at all. So your passion, was that driven by driving past those mum and dad businesses, knowing that they're going to be gobbled up by, what's the pharmacy chain in the USA? What's it
Walgreens.
Called? Walgreens and Walmart.
Walgreens, CVS, Walmart.
Right? All those guys are just going to gobble them up, because that's what's happened in regional and rural United States, like it has everywhere else. Was that the big thing that you thought, you know what, we got to help these guys and girls out? So the passion it wasn't about the money. It was, this thing drove the idea to get involved in, I'm going to build a part-time business. Was it something where you thought, even though you said you don't spend the money and all that sort of stuff, is it something that you thought, we're going to make a life, career, everything out of this and get out of the chemical plant, or was it just a passion?
No, initially that was the goal, right? It was supposed to be something that we could build up. And to this day, that's still kind of the passion. Everybody wants to leave a legacy for their kids, right? Everybody wants to be able to, hey, when something happens to me, or when it's time for mom and dad to move on, this is yours. And that's kind of one of the triggers for it. But the money aspect really wasn't there. It was more of, I'm going to build something up that's got a solid foundation, that's got values behind it, that's got ethics behind it, that's got integrity behind it. And I'm going to turn it into a recurring revenue machine that my kids can take over whenever it's time.
Okay.
And that recurring revenue will then be theirs.
Okay.
And they won't have to worry about anything.
Okay.
And once we started doing what we're doing, it kind of just elevated a little bit to, well, if we can help small businesses, why can't we help small agencies?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how 2021, 2022 has been geared. We're kind of shifting focus a little bit to not just agencies, but that's where some focus is going towards.
Okay. So
because it will help more in the future with the kids.
Yeah. If we look at it, your whole background that you talked about so far, dropped out of high school because your dad got sick, right? Which my story, I dropped out at 13 because we were poor and I wanted to wear Levi jeans. And the only way I was going to get a pair of Levi's is if I worked, because, mum and dad didn't have any money. So we've got a similar thing there. I don't know if they do it now. They drop out as easy. But I scored a job straight away. And by the time I was 15, I was earning more than my father. Crazy. Did that. Then you went into the Army. After the Army, you got into Walmart, then the chemical plant. Then you drove down the road, started to look at all these mum and pop businesses and got motivated. I don't see salesmen in any of that, right?
Nope.
And the thing is, this is a good point here. The conversation we're having so far, there'd be a lot of people sitting at the kitchen table right now or talking to their wife or their partner and saying, shit, this is no good, we've got to find a way to make more money, right? That we want to buy this, we want to buy that. We're not going to do that by the job we've got, the job you've got, we've got bills, all that sort of stuff. Let's look at starting a business. Let's look at getting a part-time job. So there's, right now, as we speak, there is millions of people in the world sitting there asking that question. And they might look at something like build websites and they go, but hang on, I'm an account administrator. I'm not a salesman. I'd have to go out and sell things. Did that thought go through your mind for the first part? Before you even went out there, did you sit back and go, oh, I'll have to sell something? Did you think like that or you didn't?
So, yeah, I did. And Mandy was kind of my motivator on that end. She said, you may not be a salesman. She said, but people like you. You can talk to people.
Yeah.
And from the get-go, and it's never changed and it's never going to change, I don't sugarcoat anything. I tell you the absolute God's honest truth, whether you like it or not. And that's kind of what sets us apart as a digital agencies, because I'm sorry, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, but if you don't like that, you can find another digital agency. I don't need your money to keep my lights on at night. And that really hits home with a lot of people, especially down here in the South. They want somebody that's going to tell them the truth. We had a client not that long ago was like, hey, I want to do this, 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 and this. And I was like, we can do it, but you don't need it. What if we just did ABC instead of doing XYZ, and you're going to get better results doing it that way because it's laid out however we worded it, right? And he was like, well, no, I want this. I said, well, doing it this way is going to cost you more money that you don't need to spend. And he was like, do you not want to take my money? He's like, no, I don't want to take your money. I'm not in the business of taking your money. I'm in the business of helping you make money. And for him, that kind of just like, he just, what? But
it's unusual.
It is. And he's still a client.
Yeah. Is that a Southern trait, you reckon? Is it a Texan trait?
Man, I would love to say that it is, but it's just, I can't say that it is, it's really, I guess it all just depends on how you were raised, and Mandy and I are the same way. We do it with the kids. We don't sugarcoat anything, period, point blank. This is it. You get what you get and you don't throw a fit. So
it's funny though, because
you like it or you don't.
When I worked in the US, which is going back, I was 40 years old when I landed in the US the first time. I noticed that doing business in California was totally different than doing business in New York City.
Absolutely.
100% different. And I noticed that doing business in Beijing in China was totally different than doing business in Los Angeles or New York City. And that was something that was a big downfall for me, because I remember when I spent 25 years mainly in Asia and I went back to Australia, where I was a guru when I left there, and I went back and I was a loser with a capital L, right? Because I was just so used to doing business the Asian way. And that was, you'd sit down for 2 hours to have a cup of tea, right? And the relationship is the most important part of it. Whereas when I was in America, especially in California, someone, you told them you loved them in about 5 minutes, right? New York, it was all slap them on the back. Let's do a deal now, right? I love the Midwest. That was pretty close to doing business in Australia. It was a bit more laid back. The relationship was important. Truth and honesty were important. But I think it is a little bit of a cultural thing. But my other point is how much of what the Army had to do with your life, did that come into the business side as well?
So kind of, yeah. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't have done, before the military. And a lot of people say the military teaches you who you really are.
Yeah.
So, I've always been a pretty laid back, easygoing person, but being in the military has made me more alert. It's made me more conscientious of things going on. I can definitely read people a lot better. Yep. And that's kind of how I know that if the conversation's going sideways, let's bring it back. Let's circle back around. What else can we do to kind of pique your interest? So you don't have to be a sales guru to be able to read people, And reading people is, in my opinion, one of the most important things about trying to sell a website. Yep. Hey, you're doing great on Facebook, but if we had a place for your Google users to find you, which, oh, by the way, this is how many people are searching for a business like yours every month. If we had a way for people to find you on Google, and then their eyes are kind of rolling, so you can read people, and you can change the dynamic of the meeting just based off of reading people. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I picked up from the military. I've always been a pretty good judge of character, but the military really honed that in for me.
Yeah.
So,
it's funny when if you look at places like McDonald's, when McDonald's first started up in Australia, what they really looked for in management was ex-military, right? They wanted it that you had these core assets, that ability to sniff there's a problem, that ability to get on well with people, because it's amazing how people can get so irate about a bad hamburger, right? The ability to manage people, especially teenagers, because I think teenagers are harder to manage than a bunch of elderly people, right?
Oh, yeah. I got 4 of them in my house.
I feel sorry for you, brother. I really do. And it's tough. But if we look at it now, that all of a sudden you made this decision, all right? You sit at the kitchen table, let's do this. You've decided that the digital agency is the way to go. You've looked at mum and pop businesses. You've got all these ideas, and you obviously get yourself a duder agency, right? That's who you decide to sign up with, and away you go.
Not at first.
You brave man. But this is the question. Again, there's a bunch of people out there looking at AJ going, hey, I want to do what he did. But the question is, what worked really well and what failed? You've gone out there. What did you try first of all? Because you're not a salesman. You're an honest, beautiful, wonderful human being, but there's still going to be party that closes a deal, right?
Yep.
When you first went out there, what was the modus operandi? What was the battle plan when you first went out? What worked and then what didn't work?
So what didn't work is just handing people a business card. You've got to strike up a conversation. You've got to strike up an initiative, but don't go into a business just for that. A lot of the people that we talk to and a lot of people that we actually sign as clients, we go into their business because we need something from them. And when you're in there and you're getting what you need from them, that's how you strike up your conversation. And that's how you talk about their business. And that's how you pique their interest about what you can do and whatnot. So don't just think that you can leave it all up to SEO and SEM, which those are great, right? They'll get traffic to your website, but people want to put a face behind a service. And that's my opinion. So door to door is, people don't do it no more, get out there and do it. That's what's worked for us. We had a guy come out to our house and he built a covered patio for us. And he's out there on my back porch and he's sweating and he's dying in the Louisiana heat. And I'm out there and I'm bringing him water and we're sitting down and we're talking. I prop up a fan for him. And I said, man, how many of these do you do? And he's like, oh, well, we stay pretty busy. And I said, do you think you can get bigger? Yeah, we could probably manage to get bigger. He said, but I don't want to get so big that I can't, that, you know, we've got to bring in 35 or 40 more crews. I said, well, what are you doing to get bigger? And at that point I had him, you know? So we started talking about that. And next thing you know, he's coming back over to my house a couple of days later and I'm showing him mock-ups that we've designed. He said, dude, this is awesome. And he's still a client, but don't give up. That's the biggest thing. You hear it growing up all the time. Quitters never win. So if you want to succeed, you have to make it successful. And everybody's different. I talk to people really easily. Not everybody can do that. So if you can't do that, find somebody who can and hire them. Don't be afraid to go door to door. Door to door is going to be your best. And again, this is just me. It's going to be your best way to meet the people that you're trying to help. You know what I mean? And it's also a way to realize who you don't want to help. You know, if you go in and you meet a shop owner and they're kind of on the nasty side of things, you don't really want to put your name on a brand like that. You know, website designed and managed by Create My Site. Well, everybody who talks to this customer hates them and they're writing on bad reviews. And next thing you know, those bad reviews are linked because their website, you know, you're tied to that bad name. So just be mindful. Don't be afraid to say no, but don't be afraid to get out there and talk to people. You really can't be afraid to say no. That's got to be one of the biggest things.
The word no.
Yep.
You know, it's, I think if I look at all the people I've met over the years that wanted to start a business and walked away, one of the major reasons is their inability to handle rejection, right? Because you've got to have an incredibly thick skin to go out and try and sell something because, you know, a real great closing rate is 1 in 3. So that means you're going to get belted and told no by 2, right? But the average person, it's like 1 in 5, 1 in 6. So if you're knocking on 5 doors and 4 of them are getting slammed in your face, rejection, that's a tough thing. We don't like it. The word no is uncomfortable, right?
Yep.
So how do you handle it?
I mean, I let it roll off of me like water, really, you know? And again, we're a unique situation, right? Because I've got a full-time job.
Yeah.
You know, I work.
You're still going to eat.
Hours a week. I work 60 to 70 hours a week in a chemical plant, you know. And we face our share of no's, you know. We have clients who are just downright nasty. Or potential clients who are downright nasty. You know, I put a proposal together for one client, and I went through his website with a fine-tooth comb. I probably spent about 2.5 hours on his website, and I pointed out everything that was wrong with it, everything that was hurting him, and everything that Google is going to start flagging him for. And I said, hey, look, I put together this Word document. I'd like for you to take a look at it in regards to your website, if you don't mind. And his response wasn't no, but it was F no, you know. And he said, don't you ever message me again, blah, blah, blah. And you just kind of got to step back and you're like, all right, he's not the type of client that I want.
No.
So if everybody who tells you no, if you face it with, okay, step back. What did I do wrong? If anything, what can I change? If anything, or was that really a client that you want? That's really the big takeaway from it. It has to be a client that you want, and you'll hear it, you know, get within your niche, and focus on that. Well, for a lot of people like us, we don't have a niche, you know. We'll build websites for a water treatment plant. We'll build websites for a handyman, you know. We'll build websites for a dog groomer. It doesn't matter, you know. So if you take all the no's and learn from them, you'll be successful.
So in your case, as you said, you've got a full-time job, right? So you're going to eat anyway. Is for the guy that is out there and hasn't got a full-time job and he's looking at this, that this is going to be my food on the table, is your advice to them on this rejection business, hey, you're going to have to just grow a thick skin? Or is your advice find a niche? Or is your advice, well, mate, one door slams in your face, another door's going to open? What is it?
Yeah, so it's kind of the first and the third, really. It's a lot of people talk about trying to niche down, and I just don't see it. You know, you're
like
limiting
niches.
yourself. I really don't. You know, I don't think that you should limit yourself to one thing. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Let's say, for instance, you have a construction and drywall background, and you know exactly what a business like that needs to succeed. If you can go after those businesses because you're an expert in them, by all means, go after them. Let that be your niche. But for the people who are running and gunning 90-0 all day, every day, because this is what puts food on their table, don't niche down. That's just me. And I'm probably going to get a lot of backlash for it, but I don't care. You have to go after every opportunity that you can get to put food on your table. You have to be tenacious. You have to keep going until you get it. And if you think like home services, everybody's talking about niche down in home services. 450 million digital agencies in this world are niching down on home services. Good luck.
Good luck. Have fun. Take a number. Next.
Good luck.
You know, it's funny because I'm a great believer, and I think my dad taught me this, right? Dad was incredible on general knowledge. He said, son, know a little about a lot, not a lot about a little. I think niche markets, you're right. You've got to know a lot about a really narrow thing. And then all of a sudden, Harry Clegg plumber comes along and your niche market is electricians. What are you going to say? No, right? I'm a bit of probably a bit of a whore there. I'll do it with anyone. I don't really care, right? But I've learned my greatest asset is know a little about a lot. I could talk to you about just about any industry and I'll be able to say, oh, yeah, what about this? What about this? What about that? And my dad taught me that. And another great mentor, Vince Rochilla, Mr. Rochilla, he taught me that. Don't care. You know, if a garbologist comes in, someone that takes out someone's trash, right? Know a little bit about trash. Right? Hey, man, I don't know how you cope with that job. You put it on your shoulder, it stinks, all that sort of stuff, whatever, right? Because I noticed on your website, a lot of people that have been in the military, their first automatic thing is to really promote that. We look after vets and go down and focus on that niche. You don't do that.
No, I don't. And, you know, we don't talk about it being a veteran ran business or anything like that. And it has nothing to do with disrespecting veterans or anything like that. We do offer military discounts, but I don't want you to make a determining factor on doing business with me based off of the fact that we are a military family.
Yeah.
Not everybody likes the military. You know, not everybody likes doing business with veterans. A lot of people think we're impulsive and we can't control our temper and blah, blah, blah. And that's just because we're blunt. That's just because we don't sugarcoat things the way you like them. So I have nothing against putting, you know, supporting veterans on a site. I have nothing against putting a veteran ran business on a site. One of our biggest clients it's a veteran and woman-owned business.
Yeah.
You know, and we've got that tagged all over the place on there. It's not what we do. You know, I don't want you to sign up with me just because I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't want you to walk away from me just because I'm a veteran.
Yeah.
I want you to listen to me. I want you to see what I can do. I want you to hear me out. And if you don't like it, we'll part ways and we'll be friends.
Yeah. And what you did there has got really not much to do with what you're there for now.
Right.
Right. You know, the fact that, you know, you've working on trucks and stuff and being part of a crew and a team in Afghanistan has got nothing to do with that website for Mr. and Mrs. Joe Average in downtown Louisiana. So far it's all good, right? You decided away you go, you're out there, you're dealing with mum and pops, and everyone's sitting back going, yeah, that's what I want to do. And you're a really positive guy, AJ, right? You see things pretty positive. But there must have been some shitty times. right? Where you sat back and thought, oh my God, what did I do wrong there? Right?
Yep.
If you had to put down some of the mistakes you made, just give us one good one where you sit back and go, I won't do that again.
So my first website client,
I can feel the pain.
It was such a learning curve, right? And this was before we found Duda. We were building everything on WordPress. We do 100% custom WordPress from the ground up, custom themes and all that. And he wanted this lavish, phenomenal $1 million website.
Star Trek.
Right? For $100. And
$100.
So my learning point to this is where I learned to say no to clients. The biggest painful takeaway from it was I was doing something for a friend.
Yeah.
A guy who I knew because he actually came out and did work for me. And then we got to talking about his website. Just like I said earlier, order something from somebody, get to talk to him about it. We just so happened to need this guy's services, and he came out to the house, and we were talking about it, and we had a handshake deal.
Yeah.
Well, handshake deals don't hold up.
Nope.
Because here we are, his site's online, it's flashy, it's nice, it's fun, and it's working. He's getting new clients, he's getting new calls, he's getting new clicks, but I don't have a signed contract.
Yeah.
That hurt because everything that he shook his hand on and said he would pay never got paid. And we had to eat it. And remember me telling you this was my first client? We didn't have money from the business to eat it with. So we just kind of sucked it up. We chalked it up as a loss, but I sent him a very detailed, elaborate email. And I said, this is what has to happen for your site to stay online. Because like I said, it was WordPress. I gave him his login credentials, his domain name, the whole nine. He had access to everything. And I said, you have to go in and you have to update your payment, your payment method. I said, and you have to go in and you have to update your plugins. All the stuff that you got to do for a crappy WordPress website. You got to go in and maintain everything. Yeah. Well, he didn't. So a year later, he calls me and his site's been deleted. He said, hey, I need my site back. I said, hey, I can't help you. He said, no, I need my site back. I said, well, I can rebuild it. I said, but it's going to be such and such amount of money and such amount of money a month. And we're going to be built on a new platform. We're going to be built on Duda, not WordPress. And he said, well, okay, that's fine. I said, here, sign this contract. Yeah. I learned.
Yeah. You learn.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So, like my own life, I look at it, and if people turn around and say, and I've done a lot of different things, right? And I'm a bit older than you. But people turn around and say, what were the greatest influences for you? And I turn around, I automatically will answer McDonald's, because I worked at McDonald's as a manager, area coordinator. But what I learned from McDonald's was process. Everything was about process. There's a process and a procedure for opening up the front door, cleaning the lot, you name it, there's a process. And when it comes to sales, I learned really almost everything from selling motor cars. Because motor cars, you had an opportunity to see the good, the bad, and the ugly in human beings. There's nothing worse when you sell a lemon and they come back to kill you, right? Because they bought a lemon. It's a shocking experience, right? And selling motor cars taught me to stop the shopper, because you only get one chance. There's a lot of Chevrolet dealers in the United States, and every one of them has got that car that guy wants. Well, your job is to keep him with you and close him on you. So the two greatest professional impacts on me were McDonald's and selling motor cars. What was the main driver for you?
So with our initial start with helping small businesses, we had a professional motivator here that kind of really hammered home the fact that we needed to do something different, because when I went to this website, they said flat out on their website, web design packages starting at $12,500.
Wow.
That's jaw dropping. And I'm like, they can't do that. They can't, they can do it because, and they did do it. And it's a very successful company, but they're not getting the small businesses to stay afloat. You see what I'm saying? They're getting the larger businesses, which is fine. But that was kind of my motivator for wanting to help small businesses. And then the motivator, once we got into web design and we found Duda, you know, of course, we found the Duda community, which has been a great asset. Our motivator there to start helping other agencies was actually you know, and your team and what TheCamel can do. And if TheCamel can do it, and we've had this conversation before, it was you and your wife in 2013, and that was it. Yeah. And that's how you started. Yeah. And look at where y'all are at now. Look at where y'all have what, 200 employees, something like that, moving up in the world. You know, your business is known within Duda because of what you do for Duda agencies. And that's kind of where my motivation has come with helping other agencies. I want to be listed as a person who's not competing with Shane and not competing with TheCamel, because we love you. We love your team. We love everything about y'all. Yeah. We don't want to compete with y'all or against y'all. We want to work with y'all, you know, and helping other Duda agencies. So y'all have been our single number one most professional motivator within Duda. Also, Olive Street Design, you know, Nat out of Chicago.
Nat's a legend.
Man, they're a big one for me. You know, he actually spent some time talking to me on the phone about tactics on going after small businesses, and you know, he's been a huge help for us.
Yeah. I love Nat.
Yeah, I mean, that whole team is great up there. So professional motivators for small businesses would be the company down here that I believe is ripping people off. Olive Street Design in Chicago, who is actually helping people. Yeah. They've been professional motivators for us for small businesses. And on the agency side, I've got to say it's been TheCamel. You know, wow. We don't want to be y'all, but we would like to be like y'all.
Yeah. So you use that as, I mean, Anthony Robbins says, if you want to be a great piano player, just model a great piano player. Right? If you want to be, so in your way, you chose one model that you don't want to be like them, which is the guys that, that's crazy, $12,000 websites. And then you looked at people like Nat, you looked at people like TheCamel. So I get you there, right? Just on that point, when you bought up this place, are they in Louisiana? The 10,000,
yeah. 12? They are 5 miles from me.
Okay. We won't mention their name just in case this becomes world famous. We don't want to get sued. So go back to the fact that you looked at that as, are you saying that you had that as a motivator of what not to do?
Right. And that's kind of part of the military in me, right? So coming up through the ranks of the military, I had a command sergeant major tell me, he said, you know, and it was kind of in line with what my dad taught me as a kid. He said, you know, you learn something from every non-commissioned officer that you have. You either learn what type of non-commissioned officer you want to be or what type of non-commissioned officer you don't want to be. So every experience that you have is a learning experience.
Yeah.
And that was one of our learning experiences for this business of what not to do.
That's crazy. A lot of people I speak to in the military, they say that, was it the drill sergeant when you first do boot camp?
Yep.
Did he change your life?
Yeah.
Like you're already smiling when I say that.
Yeah. It definitely, it puts you on a different level, you know?
Yeah.
You learn what you're capable of and what you can withstand, and it's their job to prove that to you.
Did you hate him?
It's their job to hit you and to bring you down, because they've got to be able to tear you down in order to build you back up.
Yeah.
Into who the military needs you to be. And they really teach you to trust your training.
Yeah. Do you know, everyone in life, all the good guys that I've ever met, every one of them had a drill sergeant. They weren't necessarily in the military, but they had a drill sergeant. The really good guys, like me, it was Mr. Rashilla. That guy was so tough. You know, he would make you cry, but I learnt more off him. And to this day, I still call him Mr. Rashilla. He lives in Vietnam. And I hated him so many times, but I wouldn't be what I am as a salesman if it wasn't for Mr. Rashilla. And, you know, it's funny, I look at it, and people in the military will always bring up that drill sergeant as the guy that had so much impact. But I think in life, everyone has a drill sergeant. So
yeah, and they do.
They do. Do you use social media much for your business to build it, or no?
No. That's kind of, we're kind of frowned upon as a digital agency for that. I hate social media. You know, yeah. I really do. I think it's ruining society. I think it's
agree with you.
I understand that it's important for businesses, and I understand that it's invaluable for a business. But we have a Facebook profile, but like my Facebook profile is AJ Create My Site.
Yeah,
I have a couple of friends on there, you know, a couple of family members that are my friends, but the most of them are due to pros. You know, they're due to agencies. They're other people within the digital marketing spectrum, because that's how I'm using my social media. You know, I use it to talk to you every day. I use it to talk to Nat and talk to Frank, and I talk to other due to agencies. And I don't like, I made a post a while back, said, hey, Facebook keeps telling me I need to post, so if you need a website, let me know. That was my post. You know,
you're very active in the community because that suits you and your core value system. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I want to help, you know, and for me, I'm not one of these agencies who's like, you know, perfect example. We had a question asked in the due to support community the other day. Somebody wanted to know how to change the hamburger menu to an image.
Yeah.
You know, I think it took me 5 minutes to go in and figure out how to do that. Yeah. And then I posted the solution there. Other agencies would be like, oh yeah, shoot me a PM, you know, shoot me a private message.
Well, they want to make money.
Hey, you know, give me a little bit of a tip. There's no point, you know, because now when someone needs help, like on a big scale, they don't mind asking me.
Yeah. So I'm not going to see you on the metaverse.
No. If you do see somebody who looks like me, tell them they didn't pay for the right upgrade.
Yeah, I'm very anti-metaverse. I tell you.
Oh yeah, man. You know, he was an idol for a lot of people. You know, here you have this college kid writing these programs in his dorm room. You know, and you just picture a bunch of teenagers sitting in a dorm room with bags of Cheetos and energy drinks everywhere, you know, coding away, you know. The next thing you know, he's one of the richest people in the world. People want to aspire to be like that. But
what did he ever really do? I mean, he created this. And to me, Facebook, I love the fact that Messenger is my favorite thing. I've got to be on social media because it's part of the business, right? Compared to you, right? The Camel needs social media. Right. But it's lost its plot. You know, it was a great thing to get in touch with family and friends. And when you live overseas, that's a good thing. But it's gone off the planet. And it's strange. It's like Steve Jobs, right? Brilliant mind, brilliant man, but a shocking CEO. Zuckerberg, right place, right time, lot of luck. Bloody dog barking in the background, right?
I had to mute my mic because my dogs are barking in the background too.
But it's sad that it got into such success into his hands. And now he's got all this money that what he wants to do with us is put us in a room with a bunch of goggles on so we talk to each other in another thing. He did that where we bury our faces in handphones, smartphones, and we don't talk to each other anymore. Now he wants to go to the next level. But that's another conversation.
Yeah, and you know, like it's important, right? Social media is important. Mandy will tell you all the time. She has to have her social media because that's how she keeps in touch with our family. That's how she keeps in touch with our nieces.
Yep.
You know, my entire family is spread across the United States, you know, so it's not like we all get together every year for the holidays because we can't. We live in different states. So that's the value of social media. But where they're trying to go with it, I can't.
No.
I can't.
So where do you see yourself?
I think I have the only kids in Louisiana who don't have social media. They're not allowed to have any.
Really? Oh, you stopped them?
Yep.
You know what?
My two middle sons have an Instagram account, but one of them is getting it taken away. But they don't have social media, and like they are not allowed.
AJ, you've probably done them a favor. They might not realize it.
And my whole thing with them is you don't get it now, but you will when you're older.
Yeah. And I was talking about that with my other son the other day. You know, I always said my own father, you know, I respected my dad, but I didn't love my dad, right? Until he died. And then I respected and loved him because I realized everything that was bloody good about me, he taught me. Yeah. But I was so anti a lot of the stuff. And I think with our kids, they'll know in the future. You know, and that's this may hurt you now, but later on you're going to get this. And social media, it's one of the things I loved about my own dad was at 13, I could hold a conversation with a bunch of adults. My dad taught me that. Try sitting down with a 13 or 14-year-old nowadays, and you've got to get them off this, because they can't have a conversation. Their general knowledge sucks. And that's what's important in the world to become successful. AJ, I got to ask you a last question. What's the future? 2 years from now, 3 years now, what's the plan?
So the plan really won't shift a whole lot. Going to kind of do a little self-promoting here for a minute, but, we're going to be launching the partners program for new to agencies within Create My Site. So I think if I had to give myself a 2-year plan, I think that I would like to be at, let's see, what would be a good attainable goal? Because you have to set goals that are obtainable, right? You can't, hey, in 2 years from now, I'm going to have 1 million websites on my dashboard. It's not going to happen.
Forget about it.
So I would like to have an additional, we'll say an additional 100 sites of small businesses. And then I would like to have maybe 20 or 30 due to agencies that we help on a regular basis that come to us when they need something or even just allow us to do everything for them. I think that's a pretty good 2-year goal from where we're at right now.
Okay. And personally?
Personally, not much is going to change. I have my job in the chemical plant that I love. It challenges me on a daily basis. My oldest son will be out of the house by that point. He's planning on going to the military. So that's probably going to hit us a little harder than we want to admit. And then my daughter, she'll be right behind him.
Military as well.
Trying to make sure that they're ready for the world.
Crazy. What, you don't want to take up the violin or anything like that in the next 2 years?
No, I'm learning piano right now.
Are you not joking?
I'm not joking. I'm learning piano right now. When my grandmother passed away,
she let you got the piano. Yeah,
she did.
I remember that.
This is the stuff that I got to put up with, Shane. He's throwing paper airplanes at me in my meeting.
Who's that?
That's Bo. That's the one with the bad elbow.
Tell Bo, behave, shut up, sit in the background. All right.
Behave. Sit up and
AJ, just quickly. www what?
CreateMySite.com. CRE, the number 8, mysite.com.
Okay, I want to thank you. It's
Thank
exactly what I wanted out of this chat.
I will
I'm
always
so
take
happy.
a chance to chat with you, Shane.
You know, I mean, we talk every day, brother, but I feel good that I know that there'll be some people out there when they watch this in the next couple of weeks sitting at that kitchen table, and a lot of the points we brought up today will be what they're thinking about. But I want to congratulate you. You're a good man. And also, love you, brother. And
love you too.
Give my love to that Southern gal, Mandy.
I will. She's probably she'll be pulling up any minute now.
All right. You take care, brother. Thank you so much.
All right. Y'all be good.
That was great, mate. See ya.